Two Sisters, Two Americas by Brooke Ross. Diana Severia, 14, and her older sister Veronica Severia, 21, aren't just siblings. They're best friends. They share many interests, including art and current events. Plus, Diana knows she can count on Veronica for things like rides to school and help with her math homework. But there are some big differences between the sisters. Diana will be eligible to vote in elections after her 18th birthday. Veronica won't get a say in this year's presidential election, even though she's already old enough to cast a ballot. When Diana graduates from high school, she'll be able to apply for financial aid and go to college. Veronica isn't in college because she can't afford it, and she can't ask the federal government for a loan. How can this be? Diana is a U.S. citizen. She was born in Maryland, where she lived her whole life. Veronica, however, was born in El Salvador. Her parents brought her to the United States illegally when she was 10. The Severia sisters, along with their parents and brother, are part of what is often referred to as mixed status family. That means people in the family have different citizenship or immigration statuses. Almost 17 million people in the U.S. live in mixed status households that include at least one undocumented immigrant. About a quarter of those people are children born in the U.S., and like Diana, are citizens who live with at least one undocumented parent. Members of mixed status families face constant challenges. They include getting and keeping jobs, discrimination, and, their greatest fear of all, being split up if one or more of them are deported. Now, in a presidential election year, that worry is more real than ever. President Obama has put in place policies intended to help some undocumented immigrants. He's even bypassed Congress at times to do so. But his term is almost up. Some Republican candidates say they'll undo Obama's policies if elected. That means many undocumented immigrants would be at risk for deportation. That's Diana's biggest worry. I don't want to be here all alone, separated from my family, she explains. They're my family. I love them. The family has been separated before. In the late 1990s, as poverty and gangs were taking over the streets of El Salvador, Diana's parents, Maria and Miguel, made a drastic decision. They temporarily left their two young children, Veronica, then 4, and Tony, then 2, with relatives. Then the young couple fled their home in Itupica, El Salvador. They hoped to build a better life in the U.S. They slipped across the U.S.-Mexico border and settled in Maryland. Miguel found a job as a welder. Maria worked 7 days a week as a dry cleaner. After they had been in the U.S. for about 4 years, Diana was born, with citizenship. The 14th Amendment to the Constitution grants automatic citizenship to anyone born in the U.S. By 2005, the violence in El Salvador had escalated. Gang members started threatening Veronica and Tony. They believed the siblings' parents were rich since they were living in the U.S. Maria and Miguel saved every penny they had to hire smugglers to bring the children to the U.S. Veronica remembers the journey vividly. We were forced to walk for days, she says. We couldn't eat. There were a few times I thought we weren't going to make it. Along the way, the siblings, then 10 and 8, were split up. Tony made it into the U.S. undetected, but Veronica was detained by immigration officers at the border. After 2 weeks in a Texas detention center, she was turned over to her parents. Veronica had to appear in court. Soon after, she received a deportation letter, but she and her family never left the U.S. An estimated 11 million undocumented immigrants live in the U.S. The majority come from Mexico and Central America. The overall number of undocumented immigrants hasn't increased since 2009. That's partially because of the beefed up security at the border and a weaker economy in the U.S., but most lawmakers still agree that illegal immigration must be addressed. But Democrats and Republicans have very different ideas for immigration reform. Democrats generally focus on creating a path to legalization for people already here illegally. They argue that such immigrants do jobs that few Americans want, like working on farms and cleaning homes. Republicans tend to favor measures such as tightening border security to prevent more immigrants from coming here illegally. Some support stepping up deportations. They say undocumented immigrants take jobs from Americans, commit crimes, and drain the country's resources. The Severia's fear of being deported was constant. Veronica and Tony were able to attend public school. That's something undocumented immigrants are allowed to do under a 1982 Supreme Court ruling. but the family had to move frequently to avoid being discovered. As a result, the kids often had to change schools. It was a lonely childhood. I was scared to make friends because I thought if they found out I was undocumented, somebody would tell, Veronica explains. The stress of the family situation put a strain on Maria and Miguel's relationship, and they separated. During that time, Veronica admits she resented Diana. As a citizen, Diana seemed to have far fewer worries than the rest of the family. I remember thinking, why does Diana have this special treatment and I don't? She says. Life changed dramatically in the summer of 2012. With Congress unable to pass immigration reform, President Obama took matters into his own hands. He issued an executive order. It temporarily protected from deportation up to 1.7 million young people who'd been brought to the U.S. illegally as children. Veronica, who had just graduated from high school, applied for the protection along with Tony. Both received it. The new program, called Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals, didn't give the siblings a path to citizenship. But life was better. They no longer had to fear deportation. They also received Social Security numbers and permits to work in the U.S. legally. It was like a boulder had been lifted from my shoulders, Veronica says. I started dreaming of all these possibilities, being able to have a job and not hide anymore. For a short time in November 2014, it seemed as if Maria and Miguel might qualify for protection as well. After further attempts to enact immigration reform in Congress failed, Obama issued another executive order. This one would have temporarily protected approximately 5 million additional undocumented immigrants from deportation, including the parents of U.S. citizens. But conservative lawmakers accused the president of abusing his power. Within a month, 26 states filed a joint lawsuit against the Obama administration. Last fall, a federal appeals court in Louisiana ruled in the state's favors. The ruling prevented Obama's order from being carried out. The Obama administration appealed to the Supreme Court to overturn that ruling. The court had agreed to hear the case this term. Still, the next president is almost certain to inherit the issue. Democratic presidential frontrunner Hillary Clinton strongly supports Obama's immigration policies. She said she'll continue them if elected. But the Republican frontrunner, businessman Donald Trump, says he'll undo Obama's executive orders on immigration. A new president has the power to override a past president's executive orders. The road ahead remains uncertain for the Severias, but in many ways, this mixed status family is doing better than ever. Tony, 19, works as a cashier. Maria has found a new position and better hours as a nanny. And in 2013, Veronica got a job as a receptionist for a flower wholesaler. Since then, she has been promoted twice, and today works in the company's sales department. With earnings she saved, Veronica recently was able to help her mother make a down payment on a 4-bedroom house in District Heights, Maryland. They now live there with Tony and Diana. Veronica says these positive changes have helped her stop resenting Diana for being a citizen. I realized that it wasn't her fault. I just had to support her and help her take advantage of all the opportunities she has in this country that I unfortunately don't. Meanwhile, Diana knows she carries the weight of her family's hopes on her shoulders. She plans to go to college. She wants to become a lawmaker so she can fight for immigrants' rights. I think I might go into politics, she said. Maybe I'll become president one day.